43 million Americans have some college education but no degree. That means they spent time and money enrolling in school and going to class. They may have even gone into debt, but they have none of the employment benefits that a college provides. That number should terrify you more than any poll about whether college is worth it, because the real story in the data is not that the college degrees are useless. The real story is that going to school but leaving before you have a degree or certification is one of the worst financial decisions you can make. So today we're talking about what a college degree actually buys you, where it falls short, and the specific things you need to be doing right now that you probably didn't learn in school. Welcome to All That Said. And if you've been with me for a while, welcome back.
Let's dive in and see where we go.
Love to.
So this NBC poll is everywhere, and it's kind of crazy. Over 60% of Americans say that a degree isn't worth it anymore. What does that number mean to you? What are your thoughts on that?
I am not surprised at it. These polls pop up every year or so, and it's been trending for a while that more and more Americans are questioning, is a college degree worth it? And when you think about how much it costs, it makes sense. College degrees are one of the biggest investments that anybody can make in their life. It costs more than a car. It can cost more than a house for some people. So trying to decide what education you need for your life and what's worth the cost is a big decision.
How would you determine what would be worth the cost? What is that? What to you is worth the cost?
Well, for me, I think most people need to focus a little bit more on the career aspect of what do you want to do? And that should be guiding your decisions on what education you need, whether you need a 4-year degree, a PhD, a 2-year degree, or maybe just a certification. But unfortunately, these decisions aren't always guided that way. A lot of folks who are making this decision are young, and they don't know what they want to do. And our system just tells us, go to college and figure it out. But college is a really expensive career exploration tool. So we need to be encouraging people to think a little bit more about what your skills are and what you're good at and what you can get paid doing for work before you make that big investment decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Tuition is expensive. College is not cheap, right? And just growing up, it was something that you just went to college. We were going to college. You didn't know what the plan was. You didn't know where your path was going, but we were going to college regardless. And tuition is a big factor into that. Right. And over the 20 years, tuition has gone up 100%.
Right.
That's kind of crazy.
It's actually gone up 180%.
That is
which
wild.
Is crazy. And that's why people are questioning it. We have a very strong college-going culture in the United States, and we have it for a reason. But when the costs are so high, people have to think about it a lot. Tuition's gone up about, on average, 180% over the last 20 years. Most of that is at the state level. It's just right under 200%. And that's because states are decreasing the amount of investment that they provide to subsidize the cost of that education. But private schools are going up as well over 100%. So it's hard to find an affordable education these days, and it's a big decision. It's a big decision on what to invest in.
There's also a cultural piece to that. Can your family afford that? Is this going to happen for you? Do you think that's a real issue for people, or do you think that's just a perception?
I think it's a big issue, and I think particularly for first-generation students who have grown up in a family who haven't gone to college, and they've seen the way they found careers and had fulfilling lives, and it's a real decision point of, should I go when you don't have that college-going culture, perhaps, that you've been raised with, and then you're being asked to spend all this money. So I think it's a big decision for everybody today. Real quick, if this data is landing for you and you want more honest career conversations like this, hit subscribe and drop me a comment. Tell me your major. I read every comment. Now back to the show. All that said, a college degree is still worth it for the vast majority of people. And there's a lot of reasons why. First, there are acres of research documents about the value of a college degree for wages over a lifetime. Let me just give you a small sample. National Bureau of Economic Research says individuals with a college degree at age 25 will earn 27% more. By the age of 55, you're earning 60% more. And it's not just in wages. It's also in other things like you're more likely to have employer-paid health insurance. You're more likely to have retirement benefits. You will be able to transition jobs faster than others without a college degree. The fact is that over 50% of the jobs today require a college degree. So if you're looking for work and you don't have one, that's a lot of jobs that you're not eligible for. And it's not as big of a deal when you're 22, but when you're 32 or 42, it's a much bigger deal. So despite all the concern, a college degree does still pay off. It's just make sure you know why you're getting that degree, what career path that you're interested in, so that you get that education and training during the experience when you're there, instead of just kind of trying to figure it out and jumping from class to class without direction.
I mean, you mentioned, how important the degrees is and transitions. Do you think it's really important, so say a woman who had her children and now is empty nesters and wants to maybe go back to school, do you think that is still worth the degree for her to go back and get that degree?
And again, if her career interests require a degree, heck yes. More and more people are actually going back to school these days. We actually have a fair number of people who go right out of high school and then drop out. Over a third of the people who enroll right out of high school drop out, many for either financial reasons or because they don't know why they're there. They don't know why they're trying to get this education. They don't have that good career goal focus. So it's more and more common for people to go out and live life a little bit, work around, try some different jobs, have a family, and then decide, okay, now I know why I'm going back. And we see a lot of people doing that. And by all means, it definitely is worth going back if that's what is required for your career goal.
So you had mentioned that not all degrees are created equal. What separates the degrees from that immediate payoff than the ones that don't? What would your advice be on that?
Well, some degrees are built to be just 2 years or 4 years, and you're qualified then to get a job right out of school. And some degrees aren't that way. Some degrees are built for you to get more education. For example, I have double majored in history and political science. And I didn't think through my career when I was in college. And as I started to get towards my senior year and I realized they were going to kick me out at some point, I started thinking about a job and I realized, oh my gosh, I am qualified to do very little. I am highly educated, but nobody wants to hire me. And I had to think about it and thought, you know what? The skills that I learned with those majors are perfect for law school. So I applied for trade school, I applied for law school and became a lawyer. But that's 3 more years of investment and time.
At what point did you decide to make that decision? Or did you feel like you had to make that decision in school? Because I feel like not all people going to school at first know exactly the path they want. And that changes too, right?
Definitely does.
At what point did you personally feel like you needed to make a decision and make that shift?
I can distinctly remember it was towards the end of my junior year, beginning of my senior year, when I started to look for jobs. And I got to know the career services office and I started to interview, and I wasn't getting a lot of interviews. And I realized I need to make a different decision. So it was kind of circumstances driving me, which I think is what a lot of people do. But what we're trying to do with this podcast and what a lot of schools are trying to do now is to bring those conversations earlier for students. And for example, a local project that I'm working on in my community is trying to bring career exploration to middle school, trying to help people think about jobs earlier so you have more time to soak on this and don't end up forced into a path that may be not what you would choose, especially again, given the expense of school.
So we had talked about how degrees open doors and how valuable a degree is. Are there specific degrees that need more education versus the ones that don't for a better payout or more value?
Right. Well, the first thing I would say is get the degree. It is such a shame that 43 million Americans have some college, but no degree to show for it.
Wow.
They went to school, they spent that time, they spent the money, but they don't have that final piece of paper that opens up so many jobs out there. So just having the degree is valuable. From that, certain degrees are a faster payoff in the workforce. So, for example, a lot of your STEM degrees, not surprising to many, things like engineering, things like biology and chemistry, are going to usually provide you a faster payout. Liberal arts degrees, a lot of times you have to get higher education to get a higher payout. Now, there's jobs for all of these types of degrees, but it's important that you look and understand what jobs you can get with the education you have and whether that money that's provided for those jobs is adequate for you.
So once you get your degree, do you feel like you're really locked into that degree, or do you feel like there's room for transition?
I am on my 4th career personally, and I think there may be a 5th in me. So I'm a living proof that you certainly can change careers. And I think that's going to happen more and more right now with artificial intelligence changing jobs. I think a lot of people are looking around and trying to think and wonder whether their job's going to be around in 3 years or 5 years. So it's going to be a reality for all of us. And I think it's important that instead of focusing on your degree, instead of your diploma and what it says on your diploma, that we start focusing on skills. What did I learn from that degree? And what have I learned from my jobs as well? And thinking about all of those skills as part of your career portfolio and thinking about it holistically. Degrees are not the reason why an employer is going to hire you. An employer is going to hire you because you have the skills to do the job that they need done. So we all need to start to think about our work and what we do in terms of this language of skills. So what do I mean by skills, right? For example, a liberal arts education teaches you a couple of core skills. It teaches you critical thinking, which is unbelievably important right now with all this AI content out there, and we're all questioning constantly what we can believe and what we can't believe. That's critical thinking. That's the ability to look at something and question, where am I getting this information? What was their sources? Do I trust their sources? We all need that kind of critical thinking ability. I also learned a skill I learned from my liberal arts education was in analysis. How do I take data and information from conflicting sources and come up with a sound answer that makes sense, that I can explain to others? And another core skill that I learned was communication. And communication is unbelievably important today. Even though we have generative AI who can rapidly spit out an email, we all need to be able to say something that the other person can quickly understand and trust. And we need to be able to listen carefully, and we're losing our listening skills the more and more we look down at our iPads and our phones. Yeah. We're losing our ability to listen carefully and then change your answer and say it back. Those are core skills that I learned from my degree and that have carried me through all of my 4 careers so far.
So talking about skills, looking back, what did you get from the experiences that had nothing to do with the actual classes? Do you think that's just as important as the actual education that you're getting through?
Definitely. Being in school, especially at the college experiences, you suddenly get to be around your people. And it helps to start to develop your own thinking about your career, and it helps to sometimes spur you on to do better. You start to have some friendly competition. And most importantly, you can get from a school experience, but you can also get from work experiences, your network. You're going to find this more and more now with this really hyper-competitive job market we have, is that your network is everything. I read a statistics the other day that somewhere around 50% of jobs are not posted, that they are actually hiring based on networks and recommendations. And I think we're going to see this more and more as AI is used to flood the marketplace with resumes. And employers are overwhelmed by the number of resumes. Right. And they're going to rely on somebody telling them, hey, this is a really good person. So your network, who you meet, and who you develop those professional relationships with, whether at school or at work, is going to be more and more important.
It's the quality leads.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, that just happened to my husband. A company reached out to him because they were having conversations with some other people, and they knew they were looking for somebody in his position, and they reached out to him. And
right.
He didn't even have to apply. So that your networking, is super important and super key. So in order to have a portfolio, you obviously need work.
Right.
But in order to get work, you need experience, right? And that's what you've been talking about. Employers love to look for experience. But how do you get experience as a college student in a modern world when you're just starting out?
It's extremely hard, right? Yeah. And part of the problem, though, is everybody wants the perfect experience. They want the big name company that's right in their field, that's doing sophisticated work, not grunt work, and they want to get paid. And the reality is there's not a lot of those opportunities out there. And if you're one of those folks who can't get one of those opportunities, know that all work is beneficial. All work is. There are companies out there that will not hire people, college graduates, who have no work experience because they don't know if you know how to work, versus somebody who's maybe a waitress, somebody who is a barista, somebody who's working in retail. You know how to show up, you know how to deal with customers, you know how to respond to a boss and be respectful, and that is valuable. So know that even if you can't get that perfect internship, all work is valuable. Even if it is something that is hourly, that may not seem sophisticated or interesting to you, work is valuable. Now, it is still good to find something that's within your chosen field, within your area that you want to work, and that's where you lean into either volunteer experiences. It is amazing how nonprofits will work with you and will give you opportunities if you reach out and try. If you reach out and say, hey, I'm a communications major. Can I help you and provide maybe help doing a free communications to your patrons? Or if you're an engineer, reaching out to a nonprofit and offering to help. There are things that you can do that you may not get paid for, but that are within your field and building that skill set. The other thing to look for is more and more degree plans are offering something called experiential work in them. Not all do, but more and more are. And that's where you're working in the classroom. I know when I teach at UT, I teach experiential learning. I always want my students to not only learn the content and be able to tell me back what they're learning, but then do sample projects within the field that I teach. And you're seeing that more and more. You definitely see that in medicine. It's been that way for some time, clinicals and practicums, but it's starting to be in other fields. So look for those classes where professors are giving you real world problems that you can then put on your resume and say you did. Even again, if it was in a classroom setting, it's work. It's real work. So there's ways to build this, but don't get stuck in trying to find the perfect internship. There's not a lot of them out there. Find different ways to get that holistic answer without just finding perfect.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you for joining us today. We've covered a lot of reasons why a college degree is still worth it, even in the age of AI and with all the jobs changing around us. It's still a good investment. If you have any questions, or you have some comments, or maybe even a different opinion, drop us a note, hit subscribe. We read all the comments, and we want to hear from you. We want to hear what you think. What's your experience, and what questions do you have? Now, all that said, you don't need all the answers. Nobody has them. What you need is real data and the confidence to act on it. And that's what we're here for. Drop your questions in the comments, hit subscribe, and we'll see you next time.